Good afternoon, everyone. For those on the East Coast, good morning to anyone west of us. My name is Mike Brew. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing at Advanced Partners, and will be the main moderator for today's conversation. I'm going to turn it over, before I introduce our special guest and presenter, I'm going to turn it over to Alan Thurston to go over a couple of housekeeping items, and then I will be back on to introduce our special guest.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Just a quick couple housekeeping items. First, the webinar is being recorded, and we're going to send everyone a link to the recording via a post-event email. That's going to be sent tomorrow. So you should see something come through. That way you can watch this in sort of an on-demand fashion. If you need to submit a question, or if you have any questions about the content, we will be hosting a Q&A near the back end of the session, and use that Ask Question widget indicated in your console. It's kind of down near the bottom, and it says Ask Questions. So just submit that. We'll try to provide a response. Even if your question isn't answered in our Q&A or otherwise by us, behind the scenes here, it is valuable in helping us develop additional resources like FAQs and articles and future events like today's presentation. Also mentioned is the Learn More section, where you can download a copy of today's presentation. If you're having any difficulty with today's presentation, just to let everybody know, I loaded that in to our console here, and I didn't see it go through. So if you have any questions about that, just reach out. We'll be happy to make sure that that's included. So finally, a survey is going to launch at the end of this event. It will, again, once the webinar closes, it'll launch, and we hope that you take a minute to fill it out, as your feedback is very valuable to us as we refine and make our content better for the future. You can also complete the survey at any time, as it is on the console for easy access. For any technical issues during the webcast, please select the Help widget, and that is on the bottom bar. It's a little icon with the exclamation point. So that's providing the most common issues and resolutions, but I will wrap things up with our housekeeping and turn it back over to Mike. Over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alan. Again, for those who just joined, my name is Mike Brew, the Director of Sales and Marketing at Advanced Partners. We're very fortunate today. We have some amazing partners over at ClearEdge Marketing, and they've been fortunate enough to have them join us today to go through the complete marketing bootcamp just for staffing firms. And with that said, I will introduce our awesome partner, Michelle Creer, who is the Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing at ClearEdge, and she will be going through her presentation, and then we will look to open it up to questions at the end. Michelle, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Mike. Good to be here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I'm thrilled to be here talking with all of you. I know how busy everyone is and how precious time is, so I really appreciate you carving an hour out of your day to join this webinar, and I'm hoping that you'll walk away with some learnings and some things you can take back to your job day in and day out. So we'll jump right in here. As Mike said, my name is Michelle Creer. I'm with ClearEdge Marketing. ClearEdge is a full-service marketing agency that works exclusively with companies in the talent and technology industries. We've been in business we just celebrated 16 years, and we've got a great team of people that come from the staffing and recruiting and technology industries. So that is what makes us a little bit different and unique in that way, because we are comprised of people who have sat in-house in companies that do staffing, recruiting. I myself come from an RPO background, and others on our team that come from organizations that support the business of recruiting taking place. So we've got a team of about 60 people that execute on all of the things that you're seeing at the bottom of the screen here. So everything from the upfront marketing and brand strategy, digital and content, sales lead generation, candidate recruitment, which is so incredibly important right now and such a need, as well as just building your brand through PR and analyst relations. So really full service. And we are, again, really deeply rooted in the staffing and recruiting industry. We do a lot with some of the industry organizations that you're seeing on the right there. We feel it's really important to have a really deep understanding of what's happening in the space so that we can best support our clients when it comes to how they can effectively market their staffing agency, which is why we're here today. So let's just jump right in and get into the content. As was shared earlier, feel free to drop in questions along the way. I will do my best to answer them and look forward to sharing some great content with all of you today. So the topic is really, how do I market my staffing company, and really a boot camp around that. And what we find often is that people seem to immediately want to jump to tactics when they think about marketing. And it's true that tactics are the tangible outputs of marketing. I think it's really important that we think about the bigger picture first. What are you ultimately trying to accomplish for your organization? The answer there obviously is grow the business, right? We want to be profitable. We want to make money. We want to have a positive impact on our community. We want to put people to work. We want to give people meaningful ways to spend their time, right? No matter what you're ultimately trying to do, we always start with, what are you trying to accomplish when it comes to marketing your organization? I think what's really fascinating is, again, this topic of, or this description of marketing and the action of promoting your products or services. And in the industry that we're in, the product is really people, putting people to work, helping organizations staff up so that they can execute on what they are in business to do. And I think that's a really important place to start and a thing to remember. Why is marketing so important? We get this question asked of us a lot. How do I market my organization? Why should I invest in marketing? This stat from Staffing Industry Analysts is just eye-opening from my perspective. Before COVID started a couple of years ago, there were about 25,000 staffing and recruiting companies in the US with about 49,000 offices. Just stop to think about that for a moment. That is a staggering number of companies out there. Companies that you are trying to compete with day in and day out. We know how competitive this space in this industry is. We know that the war for talent has probably never been hotter than it has been these past couple of years. That equates to a lot of companies out there trying to place talent with companies who need talent. And it's not just staffing companies that are trying to place talent. Organizations themselves are trying to hire. They use other companies like RPOs as well. Bottom line is, there's a lot of noise in the industry and in the space. And putting the right marketing strategies in place is really critical, can really help you build your business in the right way. We are obviously working at ClearEdge, working in the industry, and being a marketing agency, we're asked all the time, what should I do? Where should I start? What are the things I need to focus on? Should I be on social media? Should I put campaigns out there? There's a lot of different ways that organizations can market themselves and to create some differentiation from those other 24,999 staffing companies that are out there outside of yours. And they're offering the same services and targeting the same companies and candidates. So what do we do? And no matter what stage that your business is at, we think a really smart approach is crawl, walk, and then run. Most companies cannot do everything at once. And I would argue, nor should they. So even the biggest staffing companies out there did not go all in on marketing from the start. They grew their teams, they grew their budgets, they grew their marketing efforts over time. At the most basic level, though, I would argue that there are several foundational elements that serve staffing companies really well. And that's what you're seeing on the screen here. Having a differentiated message, knowing specifically who you are targeting, and it's more than one person or persona, as we call them. Having a really great website, which is the start of your candidate experience, is super important. And obviously being mobile optimized is mandatory at this point. And having a presence on social media. Again, you've got candidates out there looking to understand what it's like to work with different staffing companies. And you've got clients out there doing their research on social channels as well. So there's a lot of different ways. But again, I would argue that these are a couple of the really key foundational elements from a marketing perspective. So let's dive into each one a little bit more. Jeff Bezos, CEO and founder of Amazon, love him or hate him. And I've learned that people have really strong opinions about him in one of those two ways. He had a really smart thing to say about branding, which is your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. And that is very true. Think about all the times you're having a conversation about a restaurant to go to, or a pair of shoes to buy, or something else that you're going to purchase. You're often asking other people, what are their opinions? What have their experiences been? That is really the heart of branding. And that is something that we recommend companies start by looking at. Other people are out there talking about your brand right now. What are they saying about you? And how can you influence their perception? And more importantly, provide a great experience for them. I love when I'm talking about branding, because it is somewhat of a fluid concept, if you will. I love showing some specific examples to really explain what branding is. And for us, when we think about branding here at ClearEdge, we think about all the ways that you talk about your company to external audiences, like candidates, like prospective clients, even talking to your internal staff as well. And it's also in the way that you visually represent your brand to the marketplace. So what does your logo look like? What does your website look like? Does it look dated? Does it look modern? Is it reflective of who you are? Those things together, how you talk about your company and how you visually represent your company, really make up your brand. And for us, really having an understanding of that and being able to go to market with that in a really clear and compelling way can help you create differentiation from all of those other staffing companies out there. This example that you're seeing here on the screen is for a company called Malone Workforce Solutions. Malone was founded by a gentleman named Joe Malone, who brought his sons into the business. And several years ago, it was about 4 years ago, they approached us at ClearEdge because they felt like their brand was dated. So what that really meant for them when we asked them a few questions about that was they felt like what people were seeing on their website, what people were seeing on their social media profiles, what clients were seeing in PowerPoint presentations, what candidates were seeing on job boards, none of that was really reflective of who they were. They had grown a lot over the years. They had really matured as an organization. And they felt like it just wasn't being reflected out to the marketplace. And for them, that was a big issue because they felt like it was really causing some challenges when it came to recruiting talent to their organization, when it came to the types of companies that they wanted to work with. So what I think is really interesting to note about this example is the head of marketing didn't come to us and say, we need a new website. She came to us and said, you know what, the sentiment internally is that we need a facelift in essence. The messages and the visuals that we're putting out in the marketplace really aren't reflective of who we are. And we feel like that's impacting our ability to grow the company. So we set out to understand what makes them different. And this is a question I get asked all the time. With approximately 25,000 staffing companies out there, how can I differentiate my company? And I would say from experience, there is a way to do that. And I would also argue that every staffing company does have something unique about them. It's their, what we like to call their spark, the essence of who they are, not just what they do, but how they do it. And every company has that within them, whether they've gone through the process to articulate that and then to communicate that externally, may or may not have happened. But we've got some really smart team members on the ClearEdge side of the house that can really get under the covers and uncover what that spark is for an organization and then help them put that updated brand out to the marketplace. And for Malone, what was fascinating about them after we talked with some of their internal stakeholders, after we talked with some candidates who were out on assignment, contractors out on assignment, after we talked with clients, we got to understand what it was that made Malone special and unique as opposed to others out there. And we were able to distill that down into one word. And for them, it was real. Like everything about the experience of working with Malone felt real, didn't feel manufactured, didn't feel fake, none of that. It felt real. And from there, we were able to then build out everything that you're seeing on the screen here. So you're seeing on the left a little snapshot of their brand guide internally, which helps them figure out and communicate their message to the marketplace. But on the right is an example of their website. You can even see from the visuals on there, it looks like a real person. He is a real person. Looks like somebody you can relate to. And that was all part of the strategy once we went through this brand exercise of helping that communicate that real essence out to the marketplace. So being able to differentiate yourself, being able to say how you are different and unique than other staffing companies out there is really important, because candidates have a lot of options now more than ever before, because everybody needs talent right now. They can be selective in who they work with, and being able to talk to them and show them and demonstrate why and how you are different and better and unique than others is going to give you that ability to hopefully attract them to your organization. Same thing with clients. We all know, if you've been in the staffing industry a short time or a long time, companies are likely working with a handful, if not more, staffing companies at the same time. Who can get them the talent the fastest? It's often a race based on speed. And again, if you're able to create some differentiation for yourself and really speak to what it is that makes you better and unique and different from your competitors, that's going to give you a leg up, and it's going to enable you to speak to potential clients and current clients in a much different way. So it's a really powerful first step to take, is to look at what your brand is and understand how you're talking to the marketplace, and use that as a way to start marketing yourself and your organization. This is also a great example. Salo is another company in the industry. And this was a similar yet a different yet related example. So I just talked about Malone and kind of their brand and how they go to market across the board. For Salo, they were very concerned about how do we attract talent to our organization. So really looking more at their employer brand versus the company brand as the whole. And the slight difference here is that your company brand is really the public face of your organization, to, how you talk to your customers and consumers, the people who actually buy your services and engage with you to find talent. The employer brand, while part of the overall company brand, is really more about the employee experience, what it feels like to work in the organization, the benefits and perks that employees can enjoy, the culture of the organization, the experience overall of working with them, career opportunities, things like that. And in Salo's, in their experience here, they felt like there was an opportunity to crystallize that and to put a really thoughtful and compelling message out to the marketplace to attract talent to their organization specifically, right? They wanted to add more people to their organization from an employee perspective, not the people they're placing with their clients, but their own organization. So again, being able to articulate out to that candidate and job seeker audience what made Salo different and unique, and why you should consider an engagement with them from an employee standpoint was really the focus here. And again, something that a lot of staffing companies look at as well, because not only are you in the business of placing talent to your clients, but you also need people internally to work for you as well. And that's something that we recommend companies not overlook. So we talked about one of the foundational elements being your brand and how you can differentiate yourself from all of the other staffing companies that are out there. The second foundational piece that I want to talk with you about today is really personas. Who are you targeting? And we know, working again in the industry, that for staffing companies, there are a couple of different broad personas, and then you can narrow it down even further. But you've got the candidates that you're trying to attract so you can fill the requisitions that you have from your clients. So the candidates being one of those audiences or personas. You've got clients and prospective clients, right? And those are people you also need to put messages out to convince them that you can help them with their staffing and talent needs. There's your internal employee audiences, and we just talked a little bit about that with employer branding and how you can put some effort behind positioning your own company as a great destination of choice from an employer standpoint. And then there's a whole host of other audiences that may fall into the mix as well, depending on where you're at in your organization's evolution and what your company is trying to do. If your company is trying to position itself for sale at some point in time, then a target audience might be somebody to acquire you, right? Or a PE firm, somebody to invest in your organization. This again comes back to what I talked about at the top of our time together, which was, what are you trying to accomplish as a business? What are your ultimate goals? Knowing what you're trying to do from a business strategy perspective overall really trickles down into a lot of what you're trying to do from a marketing perspective as well. So when it comes to personas and identifying who those personas are, it's important to understand what you're trying to accomplish. So if you're really focused primarily on finding talent right now, which a lot of companies are, yes, a candidate persona is a top line persona that you want to think about, but then drill a little bit deeper. Based on the positions that you're trying to fill and the recs that you have open, who are those people? And getting really granular about kind of demographic information, psychographic information. What do they read? Where do they spend time online? What is important to them? Those are all great attributes to understand so that you can put your marketing messages and your tactics out in the right places. I'll give you a real life example of why personas are so important. I was talking with a company a couple of weeks ago, and they mentioned that they were sending out about 50,000 text messages a month. Every person in their database was getting the same text messages. And the person I was speaking with was saying, our recruiters are really, really frustrated and, quite frankly, dejected right now because all they're fielding are nasty messages saying, take me off your text blast. Stop texting me. Why are you texting me this information? And I get it. That is frustrating when your job is to find people and place them with client openings. To get those types of negative pieces of feedback is frustrating. And she said, we just need better messaging. And I said, you know what? I think we need to take a step back here. Yes, messaging is a key component of what you're trying to do, but let's take a look at the bigger picture. Why are people responding negatively to these messages that you're sending out? Well, for one, you're blasting out a text message to 50,000 people about a single job. Do you think every one of those 50,000 people is interested in that job, has the skill sets for that job, has experience with that job? No. So why are you getting negative responses to that text message? It's a generic blast out, and it does not speak to each of those people individually. So we had a good discussion about that. I think the job that they were blasting out was for a forklift operator. And I asked who was all in their database. And this person said, we've got everybody you can think of in this database. We don't just serve light industrial. We also serve office and clerical. We've got a couple of professional positions. And I said, okay, let's think about that for a second then. If you are, let's just say for sake of argument, you've got an office clerical background. Maybe you do some data entry or something like that. You get a text message about a forklift operator. What does that say about the company sending that message to you? And the woman said, yeah, I get it now. I understand why this isn't working. So again, going back to her initial request for we need better messages, yes, to some extent, but it speaks to the personas. They have a lot of different personas in their database. They've got people who work in light industrial. They've got people in office clerical. They've got people, a fair amount of people in kind of what I would call the professional technical sector as well. So I said, I think where you need to start actually is to go back and segment that database. Let's create groups of contacts based on some similar criteria so that we're not sending a text message out about a forklift operator or driver position to people who don't have that skill set, nor do they have the interest in it. So again, that goes back to what is a persona and why do we create personas? We want to, when possible, get as granular as possible with understanding who you're trying to target. And I understand completely that staffing companies have a lot of different open recs and a lot of different people that they're typically targeting. So you can, in some instances, obviously group some people together or group personas together. I would say at the end of the day, the most helpful place to start is to understand, who are we trying to target? Are we trying to target people right out of college? Are we trying to target people that maybe don't have college degrees? Are we trying to target people who are in IT with maybe, 5 to 10 years of experience? Kind of getting an understanding for those target people that you'd be looking at is a great first start. And understanding what messages are going to resonate with those people, where they spend time, how you can reach them is important. Because again, text message might be a great way to reach people, but we know that different people spend time online and engage with content in different ways. So a nurse might be spending her time on Instagram, for example, and a forklift driver might be spending their time on TikTok. That's a super generic example. Don't take me at that as definite, but that you kind of get my drift there, in that different people are spending their time in different ways and looking for content in different ways. So at least understanding who you're targeting and starting to think about segmenting your database of contacts, whether those be your candidate contacts or your target client contacts, is really, really important. And a great exercise to go through that from experience. A lot of companies overlook and then they get frustrated because their messages aren't resonating. They've got too many open recs. They're not attracting the right people to their organization. All comes back to thinking about those personas and who you're targeting. So we've talked about having a differentiated brand. We've talked about understanding who you're trying to target and building personas. The next kind of foundational marketing element that I would recommend staffing companies look at, or any company in general for that matter, is really their website. We like to say that your website is basically your digital front door. It's where people come to learn about your company. It's likely where you're driving candidates to apply for jobs. It's a place where people are just going to check out who you are, what you're about, what kind of company do you seem like, what types of involvement might you have in the community, how do you give back, who's your leadership team, what types of roles do you have available, right? There's a lot of different things that a website can serve, and a lot of different messages that they can put out there. So again, your website is really, really important. And a lot of times companies will come to us and say, we need to refresh our website. And I think if you look at a website and it looks dated, you have a perception about that company. Like I was saying, that quote from Jeff Bezos earlier, your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. Your brand is the perception that people get when they look at your website. So if it's out of date, there's a perception there about you as a company as well. So being able to put your best digital foot forward is really, really important. We fully believe that your website should work for you. For years now, a website has not been kind of your digital brochure. I think that's, when websites first started becoming a communication tool for companies, that was kind of how it was viewed, as kind of something pretty to look at and kind of an online brochure. But now we know that websites can and should work for you. So what do you want your website to do for you? Again, it's not just about the perception and how it looks. It's about how it can function for you. How is it from a candidate attraction and conversion standpoint? So when candidates come to your site, how long are they spending on your site? What type of journey are you taking them through? How hard or hopefully easy is it for them to apply to a job on your website? Nothing is more frustrating to candidates than coming to a site and having to click 3 or 4 times to get to what they need. I was just talking with the president of a staffing company this morning, and he said, I, on a weekly basis, will go out to my website and go out to competitors' websites and try to apply for a job just to see, is our team continually working on evolving and making that process more seamless? And how are my competitors doing? Because again, that is such a key component for candidates, the ease with which they can find and apply for jobs on your site. Removing those barriers to application is really, really important and provides a great candidate experience. Same thing on the client side of the house. If somebody wants to engage with you, if somebody wants to work with you to help fill roles and positions that they have at their company, make it as easy as possible for them to learn about you, to engage with you, to understand that you are an expert in their industry, in their space, with the types of roles that they're trying to fill. How can you communicate that out to them through your website? So I think a smart thing to do here when it comes to your website is, again, to think about those personas. Start with, who are we trying to get to visit our website, and what actions do we want them to take? We know that a lot of times companies will go out there and just say, I need the site to look nice, and here's the navigation structure I want, and here's the pictures I want on it. That's a part of it, but again, thinking about the journey that you are taking people on and trying to create as frictionless of an experience for the people coming to your site is really important. And the candidate experience is going to be different than a prospective client experience on your website. So thinking about both of those and thinking about how can we create a really nice journey through the site to serve up the information that the audiences that are coming to our site need. This here is a Career Profiles is a great example of this. They came to us and said, our site looks dated. They serve the digital and creative market. So for them, it was really important, for those knowing that they were serving those people, to have something that looked modern and creative, so to speak. But the bigger issue for them was, how do we really create, again, a frictionless experience for our candidates and for our prospective clients? So going through this whole exercise of mapping the experience for those audiences, creating a really great footprint for them, they're actually able to go back through the analytics that are set up on their site and be able to see that the quality of leads has increased and the volume of applicants has increased. That has a direct impact on their business, which again is a question that we get asked a lot. What kind of ROI can I expect from my marketing efforts? On your website, which is a little bit easier to track with analytics and conversion tracking and things like that, you can actually see really granularly how many more candidates are coming through, how many more applications have we received, how many leads have we received, things like that. So again, thinking through that website experience from the vantage point of the audiences coming to your site is a really important lens to take when it comes to kind of foundational elements from a marketing perspective, because everything else that you'll do will ideally drive people back to the website. Campaigns that you run, content that you put out there, social media posts, things like that. You want to drive them to your digital front door, and your website needs to be really reflective of that. And obviously optimized for mobile. So many people are using their mobile device these days that it has to be built for and optimized for that mobile experience. So again, making sure that you're thinking that through and periodically testing it. Go out as a job seeker, see how it is to try to apply to a job on your website. And if it's not optimal, what can you do to make that a better experience for those candidates? This is another example when it comes to tracking and metrics and ROI that I thought would be really helpful to see. I'm a big fan of showing real life examples and not just talking kind of in theory, but being able to demonstrate the results from marketing. This company, LC Staffing, is out of Montana. They work solely in Montana. So for them, there was a little bit different of an approach from how we were positioning the company, what they needed to communicate to people coming to their website. For them, it had to demonstrate that they understand the geography, meaning the people and the positions in Montana, and demonstrate that they are really the experts in that geography. One of the pain points that they had when they came to us was they were not able to deliver customized job alerts. So they wanted job seekers from a stickiness standpoint to be able to come to their website and opt in to receive job alerts as new jobs became available. And it just was not feasible for them at that point in time. It was something that, again, through the understanding of their needs for their website and how the website could work for them, that was a big priority for them. And as a result, they are now able to deliver those customized job alerts by location and category to candidates. So for them, that's a big win, because that, again, creates that stickiness factor with people in their database. And now that the candidates, the job seekers, don't necessarily have to visit the website all the time, LC Staffing is proactively sending them out as new ones arrive. So again, thinking through that candidate experience and how they can create a great experience for candidates through their website and through the functionality was really, really important to them, and something that they were able to accomplish by really, again, thinking through those personas and the experience that people wanted to have when engaging with them on their website. So the last foundational piece that I want to talk about, and again, we've talked about the branding, we've talked about personas, we've talked about website, is now social. And social media is such a fantastic way to engage with different target audiences out there. Not everyone wants to visit your website all the time. And we know people spend a lot of time on social media. And I think, giving candidates a sense for, or even people that you would hire directly to your organization, a sense for what it's like to work with and for your company is something that you can do through social media. Videos and pictures and testimonials and quotes, all of those things are such great ways to demonstrate thought leadership, to share your culture, to promote open jobs, and to engage with your audiences. And like everything else that I've talked about so far today, making sure you're using the right social channels for your audiences is key. So LinkedIn, for example, typically, and I know these are generalizations, but typically geared toward white collar / professional jobs. Facebook and Instagram, we have found, have been really fantastic channels to engage and connect with nurses, right? They're not in front of their computer all the time. They're working odd shifts, all different hours of the day. They're on the move a lot, right? So those are great channels to engage with them. TikTok can be a great tool depending on who you're targeting as well. And that's really the point that I want to make when I talk about social, is that know the demographics of the various social platforms. So in other words, who are the typical users on each social channel? And then think about your personas. So what we just talked about, knowing who you're targeting. Are they in the 18 to 25 demographic? Are they in the 40 to 50 demographic? Are they male? Are they female? Are they college educated? Are they not? All of those things, all of that knowledge is really important, because it can enable you to align your personas to the social channels. And that is where you're going to have the most success, right? We all know that when people speak to us one-on-one, we're more likely to engage with them. So thinking about, if I have a post, I want to talk about something that's happening at my company, the easiest thing to do, right, is to use a scheduling tool, or just to go out there and post the same content on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram and wherever else. Well, think about that from the user perspective. People aren't engaging on those channels in the exact same way, so that content is probably going to fall flat on some of those channels. Which again requires a little bit more work here to customize it, but it's so worth it in the end, because you're going to get better engagement with the people who are following your social channels and engaging with you on those channels. So creating content, creating posts that speaks to your particular personas and target audiences, and then putting that content out there in the right ways is really important. You can use the same content and post it on LinkedIn and Twitter, for example, but just change up how that post is worded on LinkedIn versus how the tweet is written. Again, very different audiences and different ways of how that content is served up on those two different channels. And those are just two very quick examples. TikTok, obviously, all videos, right? So videos, really great on TikTok. Images, really great on Instagram. Images work really well across the board, I would argue. But again, coming back to making sure you're creating content that speaks to your target audiences on these different social channels. I quite often get the question, we want to be on TikTok. Help us get on TikTok, right? Everyone's using TikTok right now. That sounds great in theory. The question I ask back to them is your target audience on TikTok? They may be. If the demographics align, then great. Let's think about a strategy for TikTok. It's not as easy as just putting up a post on TikTok and that's being it. Any of these channels, you have to think about building the audience first. You have to create content to start building your followers, to get enough eyeballs. And again, it's kind of a chicken or the egg thing, but it's the work that has to be done to get you to that point. So when you do put a TikTok out about a job post that you have, you've got eyeballs and you've got a following and an audience that's going to see it. I think the biggest waste of effort from a social media marketing perspective is to put content out that nobody sees or nobody hears because you haven't spent the time building the following on that channel. And this is, again, a marathon, not a sprint. It's going to take time to build content that engages with your audiences online and gets them to start following you and looking to you on a regular basis. But it can happen, and it can be very successful then when it comes to engaging with those audiences, both on the candidate side and on the client side. And I would counsel everybody on this call to think about how can we not just talk at people, but how can we engage with people on social? So can we put a survey or ask a question on LinkedIn? What can we do on Twitter to encourage people to reply to us? Like, how can we start to build that engagement? Because that's really what social media is all about, is building that engagement with people. Just posting something out there and hoping people respond and hoping people engage with you is probably not going to get you very far. I know it sounds great to think that if I just throw it out there, I'm going to get people to, if I throw a job ad out there, I'm going to get people to apply to it. That's not always the case. You get out of all of these efforts what you put into it. So don't expect more until you do more. You can't really take shortcuts and expect miracles. And there's definitely no silver bullet. If there was, I would probably be a millionaire by now. And making money off of my silver bullet that I created, but there's not, right? That's the other thing, is that for any of these things, it takes a lot of time and effort, and it takes a holistic view of marketing to get all things moving on all cylinders. So we've talked about your message, or your brand, we've talked about personas, we've talked about the website, we've talked about social. Let's think about how we put this all together now, right? So those are all great foundational elements to marketing. Then we think about, how do we engage? We've got all these foundational pieces in place. Now what's next? What do we do from here? And this slide, I'm guessing a lot of you on this call have probably seen a variation of this before. For us at ClearEdge, it's our version of our sales and marketing funnel. It applies to candidates as well. If you look at this, and what I'm really trying to get across here is that if people don't know you, if people haven't engaged with your brand before, if people haven't heard of your brand before, if you're going into a new market, you're going into a new industry vertical, you have to start by establishing credibility, building brand awareness, right? Things that we would consider top of the funnel. And those types of content that you would create and the ways that you amplify that content are all, if you follow across the screen here, all ways that you can can reach and kind of build the top of the funnel. And as you work your way down the funnel, there's different types of content and different ways that you amplify that content to get in front of these people. So the reason I share this is that I think it's really important to think about not just executing on marketing tactics for the sake of executing marketing tactics, but really thinking about what you're trying to do. Where are the audiences that you're trying to reach? Are they brand new? Do they know about you? If not, building brand. If they know about you and have engaged with you, great. Then there's some other tactics and content types you can take to reach those people. But really at the end of the day, it's all about making sure that you are creating content that speaks to the audiences that you're trying to reach, and hopefully moves them along the way. For candidates, it's getting them hopefully into the funnel and maybe engaging with you, signing up for job alerts if you have them, following your social media profiles. If it's clients, it's educating them on the fact that you know about their industry, you know about the types of candidates they're trying to seek, and you're moving them along. So hopefully they get to the point where they are engaging with you. Bottom line, though, is that, again, you've got to have all these right foundational things in place. So going back to your brand, knowing how to talk to the market in a way that demonstrates your unique differentiation is going to help you when it comes to creating all of this content and amplifying the content. If you're out there saying the same thing as everybody else, you're making it, quite frankly, harder on yourself. Everybody likes to say we're all about our people, right? And that sounds great, and you certainly are, but there's something else there, something unique, and something that, again, is going to resonate with these audiences that you're trying to reach through all of these different content types and channels and things like that that you might be using. So what are some of those other ways to amplify content? You saw some of those on the previous slide. And here are some typical tactics that our clients use when they have those solid foundational pieces in place. Again, the brand differentiation, the personas, the digital, the website and the social media channels. So a lot of our clients then move into things like thought leadership content. So blogs and articles and ebooks and things like that. Lead generation campaigns. So finding brand new prospective clients, working to further build current client engagements, things like that. Lead nurture campaigns, candidate attraction campaigns, case studies, referral programs, SEO, right? There's the point here is that there's a lot of different ways that you can then, or methods you can use to market your staffing company. Depending on where you're at and what you're trying to accomplish, you might use some of these more than others. You might start in one spot and then move to add in other components in your program as well. How do you figure that out? Let's talk about that for a second. Here's a really good example, a company called ProFocus Technology out in Portland. Like LC Staffing that I just talked about, that's based in Montana. ProFocus is really based in Oregon and works very deeply in the Portland market. And they wanted to demonstrate they know that market inside and out. And they place IT talent. So to help them build their brand in that market, we helped them with a survey and a report that enabled them to demonstrate to companies in the Portland, Oregon market that they know that IT space inside and out. So they use that as a tool to build thought leadership and demonstrate credibility, to get in front of prospective clients, put a little pop-up banner right here on their website to encourage people to download the report. They're doing a lot of really great things to continue to build their brand in that Portland market, which for them is important. They're not national, so some of these other types of activities, marketing activities that might be a little bit more broad in nature aren't the best fit for their organization because they are geographically focused. So again, coming back to who's your company, what are you trying to accomplish, what do you do? Here's a really great example of somebody who knows what they're trying to do, knows the market that they're serving, and wanted to employ some tactics that would help them further build their brand in that market. Conversely, we've got somebody, a client called Orion Talent that has been in business a long time and has built out their team and their marketing program over the years. So like I was talking about at the top of the call, You can't expect to go from 0 to 60 overnight, and you can't expect to do everything at once. And Orion is a really great example of building over time. They're at the point now where they have a lot of different content they're creating for their different audiences. So they've got an RPO division. Their core business is really around military talent. So a lot of the content they create are very specific to those different types of markets that they're serving. And they create a lot of different content, ebooks and webinars and all the things that you're seeing on the slide here. Again, I think the important thing to remember about them is that they're a sophisticated marketing organization, and it's taken quite some time to get to this place with them. They definitely didn't start by going all in. They really focused on the foundational elements and then built their marketing program over time. Another example that I want to share with you real quickly before we start wrapping up here is a company called Triple Crown. So Triple Crown is an IT staffing company. I love this example because I think it does a really nice job of explaining why you have to tailor your marketing program and your marketing efforts to your company's goals. So Triple Crown had been in business for a number of years. They were on a revenue plateau. They had tried a lot of different tactics, couldn't get the needle to really move in a significant way. The one thing they hadn't done through all those trials was invest in marketing. So they came to us and they said, we've tried all these things. We really think that we need to start putting some money behind our marketing efforts. So we got to know the organization. We got to understand that they were really focused on attracting talent to their organization. So recruiters and salespeople, they were of the belief that if we hired those really great core employees, the business will happen and the business will come. They also felt like they knew what types of people they wanted to attract to the organization. The company was founded by a couple of former college football players. So they felt like, you know what, college athletes, kind of the persona we want to target. They're motivated, they're self-driven, they are very kind of scheduled, they're very driven, they work towards a goal, right? Those are all kind of characteristics and criteria of people that they felt would be really great employees for the organization. So knowing all of that, the tactics, the marketing program and the tactics for them were very different than for other companies out there. So we set out to help them with some recruitment campaigns through rebranding their website and rebranding their company. So really speaking both through kind of the written word and through their visuals to attract those types of people to their organization. The other second thing that we learned about them that was really important was that they had a lot of clients where they were placing a handful or fewer of people in that client organization and continually looking for new clients. And in speaking with their sales team, we understood that there was opportunity to grow those current accounts. So instead of going out and putting a campaign out to attract new clients to their organization, we worked with them to really put some account penetration or account growth campaigns in place. All of those things ended up helping them move the needle in a very significant way from a revenue growth perspective, which again is a great marker of ROI from a marketing investment. What I would like all of you to take away from this example is that it was very specific to Triple Crown and what they were trying to accomplish. What their goals were, what they were trying to accomplish, what we learned about their organization led us to create a set of very specific programs and tactics for them that aren't going to work for everybody. If you're a company that has totally penetrated your current client accounts and there's no other room for growth there, then yes, looking for new clients is important. Conversely, if you're not as worried about hiring internally and it's really about the contractors that you would like to place on assignment, then there's different marketing programs for that. The bottom line is it's all about tying your tactics back to what you're trying to do from a company growth perspective. And the tighter you can do that and the more you can align those tactics, the better you're going to be able to demonstrate ROI and the better you're going to be able to show success to the organization and why marketing can be such a driver to the organization. So we firmly believe that understanding the business goals, understanding what you're trying to accomplish, and then aligning those tactics to it is the best way to demonstrate marketing success. And like I said earlier, there is no silver bullet in all of this, believe me. It does take a combination of different types of marketing tactics and, quite frankly, trial and error. Test, set your hypothesis, test it, monitor it, tweak and refine it. That is the best way that you're going to find success from your marketing program. So in summary, really, I think the foundational elements are having differentiated brand message, know who you're targeting, create content that's going to speak directly to those different audiences, and put your content out in the right places, on your website, in social, and all the other places that people might be spending time so they can engage with you in real and meaningful ways. All right, and we've got a few minutes left here for questions.
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much. I will turn it over to Alan, and you can go through some of the questions that have come in since.
All right. Thank you, Mike. And thank you very much, Michelle. What great information. What a great session. I've just been sitting back, enjoying the content, and I'm sure that our audience has certainly found value in it. So we have a lot of questions here. I do want to start with a couple. I know based on the interest of time, we won't get to all of them today, but again, thank you for submitting some questions here. First question I have, what kind of ROI can my company expect from investing in marketing? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one we're asked quite frequently. And before I answer that, I'm just going to throw in real quickly. I see a lot of questions here. I know we're not going to get them. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to also share my email address, my phone number. My goal is to help companies be successful, so I'd love to have conversations with people offline if we don't get to your questions here. But from an ROI perspective, it's one that I'm asked all the time. And I would say that it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. So what do you want to do? What ROI are you ultimately hoping for? Because for some companies, it might be one thing, and other companies, it might be something else. So I just shared that example from Triple Crown where the ROI was revenue growth, right? They were able to grow revenue 70% year over year based on fills of open recs and bringing in growing current clients, and in some cases bringing in new clients as well. So I'm a big fan in obviously demonstrating ROI. I've always been in organizations where my CEO has said to me, I will invest if you can demonstrate a return. So I think starting with understanding what are you trying to accomplish, what do KPIs and goals and metrics look like, and then working towards those is the way to go. There are some things that are a little bit easier to track from a metrics and a KPI perspective than other things. Branding, for example, not as easy to track directly. I would argue that from a branding perspective, having a differentiated message is going to help you reach people in a better way. So there's a longer tail there. But I think starting with just what are you hoping for, and then figuring out the metrics, or the tactics, and then being able to tie metrics to it is really important. So again, not a one size fits all answer. There's a lot of variables there, but you definitely track revenue, fills. For some companies, it's how many more applications I might get, how many visitors to my website, right? There's a lot of different tactics and a lot of different ways to track that and show ROI.
Great. Yeah, good insights there. Okay, another question. It looks like Nick asks in our session here, is offline marketing outdated now in the age of COVID? Do mailers and mail items work anymore? Is everything now digital? I think that's a great question.
That is a great question, and a really timely one. I just had this conversation last week with a company that historically has done a lot of email campaigns to prospective clients, and also sent out like some promo items and things like that. We're big fans of kind of integrated marketing campaigns, and we're actually seeing an uptick again in direct mail. Right. So being able to reach people in a couple of different ways, I think works best. And on the kind of physical or direct mail front, or I guess Nick, you called it offline marketing. I love that. I don't think it's outdated. I think the challenge with COVID, quite frankly, has been so many more people now working remotely and working from home and maybe not going back into the office, that trying to track down those addresses is, quite frankly, a little bit more of a time intensive effort than it was before. You can't just look up the company's address and, ship something to them there. So really understanding, are people working? Are they back in the office? Are they working from home? If they're at home, can we get their address and can we send something there as well? To reaching them through online or digital channels is definitely something that we're still seeing.
Great. Yeah, that's a good answer. And it's funny, I've kind of seen some of the same stuff. There's really no substitute for getting, some like a nice something in the mail that's physical that you can touch. So there certainly is value there. I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
As far we have, just based on interest of time, we're going to do one more question, and it's from Harish. I hope I'm saying that right. It says, hi, Michelle. This has been a great session. I definitely agree with that. I would love to do a lot of what you are saying and recommending, but we're a smaller company, and some of the costs related to these is not a luxury that small businesses have. What are your thoughts on that, or any advice as it relates to being as efficient as you can, being a small business?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for the question. I've certainly been in your shoes as well, where there's probably not even a shoestring budget to work with. What I would say to that is to really look, again, I go back to what I've been talking about, which is who you're trying to target and how can you best reach them. So starting with a tactic and getting really, really, really good at it. Whether it's, for example, I'm just going to use social media as an example here. So social media doesn't cost anything other than the time to engage with your audiences. So really putting a lot of effort behind that and creating content and trying to get those people to visit your website, to engage with your content, to answer questions so you can get more insights about them, is something you could do. I would say don't feel like you have to do everything at once, for sure. Think about, again, what would be the most impactful outcome to your business and how can you do that in a really efficient manner. It could be, again, one thing that you start with and get really, really, really good at, start to generate some results from, and as the business grows, then you can expand your efforts from there. So it really depends on your business and what you're trying to accomplish, but you definitely don't need a $1 million budget to be successful with marketing.
Great. Yeah, good insights and good perspective there. So, okay, that's wrapping it up for our Q&A section. I do want to turn it over to Mike to provide some final thoughts and to close us out.
Yeah, thank you so much. And again, we appreciate everyone taking the time. Michelle, thank you so much for partnering with us and joining today. Amazing presentation, and just seeing all the questions coming in. Obviously, we'll certainly look to follow up with everyone, and make sure that you have your answers and, any additional questions that between ClearEdge and Advanced Partners can assist with answering. So thank you guys so much for the time. Appreciate it. And hope you have a good rest of your day. Thanks, Alan.